All right, man. You are.
Welcome back to an all-new episode of a pro wrestling podcast with Matt and friends. I am your host, Matt Kozakowski, and today we are going to find the defendants guilty with AMW's Wildcat Chris Harris from TNA. Chris, how you doing, my man?
Doing great, man. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely, dude. I'm beyond excited about this. Like I said, I was a big fan of TNA. I never stopped giving up on TNA growing up. All the way through Impact when other people were giving up, I never stopped. But AMW was always a big part of it for me. Chris Harris was always a big part of it for me. So this is very exciting for me to do. Now I start basic with my shows. A lot of people don't like that sometimes, but we start with like pretty much how did you get into pro wrestling? When was that like something you wanted to do?
I started out like a lot of people. I was one of those fans watching every Saturday morning on TV. I'd wake up and instead of cartoons, I was watching wrestling, man. So I was a fan in the '80s and just grew up watching it. And through high school and even into my college years, I loved it so much. I thought about doing it, and I spent about 2 years in college. And trying to do what everybody told me, that's what you're supposed to do is, find something and kind of go to school for it. But my love was wrestling, man. So I thought if I'm going to do it, I got to do it now. So I got out of college after a couple years and went to a wrestling school, and it was all up from there, man. I never looked back.
Oh, for sure, man. And that's such an awesome thing is, a lot of people, start off watching it and just being a fan, and that's what they choose to do. You've always heard those stories where people are like, yeah, I just felt like, hey, wrestling seems cool, I'll just do it. But being a fan of it, getting into it is so much different. Now, where did you train? Who did you train with?
I'm in the Cincinnati area, so I was kind of looking at some spots around there, and a lot of people don't know this name, but there was a really credible wrestling school back in the day called the Monster Factory, and it was run by three different guys. They split off and did their own thing. One was Charlie Fulton, and he was in Marion, Ohio. So that was about a 3.5-hour drive for me. So I looked into that, and so once a week, man, I even with having a regular job, I drove 3.5 hours up, got the hell beat out of me for 3 hours, and then drove 3.5 hours back. I did that for an entire year for a week, and that was my training. So I had some really good training with that, and then I got attached to a local independent wrestling organization called the Northern Wrestling Federation in Cincinnati. It was run by Roger Ruffin, who used to referee for the WWF back in the day. So he had really credible, really good connections. And so I kind of continued my training with him. And I always say that I was trained really good wrestling up in Marion, Ohio, as far as the wrestling moves and wrestling holds and counter holds and things like that. But Roger really gave me the psychology that I needed, and because my matches before I met him, they were horrible.
Oh, for sure.
Once I got a hold of him, and he taught me the psychology and not only what to do, but where to do it and when to do it and things like that. So he really polished me, and so I owe a lot of my training to Roger Ruffin.
Oh, for sure, man. And that's awesome. I mean, Roger, thank you for giving us Chris Harris because Chris is absolutely fantastic. I read something yesterday, which I did not know about actually until I read it. You were a part of WCW, weren't you, for a little bit?
Yeah, the last year they were in business, man. I was there the whole time.
So how did that go? How was the feel from being in WCW in the back and being there until the doors shut?
Well, getting there, man. I mean, that was one of the big two. So a guy on my level, you're just looking to sign with WBF or WCW, and through some of my connections, we were sent in, and it was actually January of 2000, so it was the entire last year. We were sent into for Nitro and Thunder. We were doing a lot of security roles, but for their Saturday night show, and they had a Sunday worldwide show that we were doing matches on. So I was getting a lot of wrestling matches with some top guys during that time. And so I was just happy to be there, man. And then October of that year, I signed a contract. So I was just, so happy just to be there. And the fact they saw enough talent that they were willing to sign me. And, growing up in the 80s and the 90s and, being a fan, that's where you want to be. It's unheard of that 6 months after you sign your deal, they go out of business. So it was really, I was really excited to sign the deal and be part of the company. But for them to go out of business, man, it was just back to square one. I had to start all over again.
Oh, for sure. And, you didn't have to wait too much longer. I mean, TNA opened its doors within a year after WCW closed, and you were there from the beginning, right? TNA?
Yeah, from day one, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, you didn't have too much time span there. Now, I also read something that you were the fake Sting in WCW. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, man. There was a period of time where Sting, he took some time off, but he was also there where they did some imposter stings, and they looked at me. I guess because of like the Crow Sting had the long hair, and I had long hair, and we had similar body types. So yeah, they used me for. There was times I was in the rafters. There was times I was in coffins. And the most notable that a lot of people remember was the one, it was a Halloween Havoc in 2000, where I was the Sting that came up from the ring and grabbed the actual Sting and drug him down underneath the ring with me. So, yeah, there was that was awesome, man. I mean, like I said, I was excited just to be there and to be part of the company, but to be used in a so I mean, Sting was the man. So to be used in a role like that, I mean, it was really cool. I mean, I can remember Sting was actually the one doing my face paint, and for him to actually say to me, as he's painting my face, he's like, "Man, this is weird. It's like looking in a mirror." And so I thought that was pretty cool that even Sting would say something like that. So yeah, so that was great, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't know about that until I read about it. I mean, I wasn't a fan of wrestling back when WCW was around. I didn't start watching until 2003. So I didn't get to watch the first full year of TNA. I didn't watch WCW. Obviously, I've caught up on a lot of WCW, and you always say like, "Hey, that guy kind of looks familiar," You guys had guys in WCW like AJ Styles. James Storm was there too for a little bit too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was part of the group that we were all sent in to do security spots. So yeah, Storm was one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys had a lot of guys there, and a lot of people didn't know who you guys were until TNA opened its doors in 2002. You guys had one of the best first shows in pro wrestling promotions ever. That first night that you guys did your show was absolutely incredible. It's still talked about till today. Tell us about how the idea of TNA came about, how you were talked into coming to TNA, how it was brought to you, and what your mind was like when you were like, all right, I want to do this.
So WCW went out of business the beginning of 2001. So 2001 was a struggle year because, like I said, I kind of went back to, square one and had to start all over. So I was doing a lot of indies in 2001, and there were different promotions that were talked about as far as, starting up, and something was going to be really big from it, and nothing really happened. So there was a lot of disasters in that year. So 2002 comes around, and I was doing a lot of Nashville events, and a lot of them was Storm, and so we started hearing about Jeff Jarrett, putting an organization together and starting up a company, and of course, we were excited because we all wanted something happen in the business. I mean, WWE was the only thing going on. WCW was out of business. ECW was out of business. So WWE was the only thing going on. But we just kind of looked at it like, okay, here's another thing that we'd love to be part of. Let's see what happens here. But there was some really good things going on with that, and next thing you know, we heard about the startup with the pay-per-view event. It was in Huntsville, Alabama, and we heard about the weekly pay-per-view events. I wasn't anywhere near on the business side of that, so I didn't know if that was a good idea, a bad idea, anything like that. I was just happy to be part of the company. But I had a history with Jeff just from WCW. I'd met him there, and we hung out a few times. And then as they were putting their pieces together to get this event started, there was an event in Nashville where they were kind of getting their commentary team together and working on some producing roles, things like that, where they were looking at talent that day. And the promoter, Burt Prentice, who took really good care of Storm and I for a long time, he put us together because we were two of his top guys. So he put us together and wanted to put us out there in a match and let them take a look and see if they were interested. And Storm and I went out there and we kicked ass, man. That was still to this day one of my favorite matches. And Jeff was watching, and a lot of people were watching. And after that match, they said they'd be in touch. And within just a week or so, we got the call about being part of that first event for TNA.
Oh, absolutely, man. And that's something else that I was reading about, how you and James Storm, I mean, you guys had your stuff going on the independent scene before TNA started. You guys actually had matches against each other. Did you guys ever team up on the indies before TNA?
No, man. All our indie events we were beating the hell out of each other. So we knew each other very well, but never teamed up.
So TNA was what brought America's Most Wanted together.
Our first tag match was actually the second event for TNA. Yeah, it was together there on TV.
Absolutely awesome. When they brought you guys in, was that what the whole beginning idea would be, that you and Storm would team up together, or was that something that was talked about after week one's pay-per-view?
No, I always said that it was one of those deals where they had to have the star power, so they were signing some big names, but they wanted some young homegrown talent, and Storm and I was on that list. So they knew they wanted to do something with us. They just didn't know what to do. So I think they threw us together and said, hey, let's put them in a team, in a tag, and let's see what happens. But on our side of it, Storm and I looked at it like, okay, we can either get lost in the shuffle and do nothing, or they're putting us together and they want to see what happens. So let's just, if they're going to put us together, man, we're going to be a tag team, and we're going to be the best tag team that we can be. And I think we did that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to this day, nobody's held the NWA tag titles more than America's Most Wanted. You guys are still the most reigned in NWA tag team history, which is absolutely incredible. I mean, that must feel something precious to you that you hold dearly. AMW being called America's Most Wanted, was that something you guys chose to be right away, or was it just Harrison Storm?
The earlier events, it was just Harrison Storm. I have to give credit to Storm for the name. He came up with that America's Most Wanted. I loved it. I thought it was a great idea. But the higher ups were concerned about like a copyright because of the TV show and things like that. So they were hesitant to call us that. But I have to throw out names like Jeremy Borash, Mike Tenay, Mike was on commentary. Jeremy at the time was doing the ring announcing, and I was very close to those guys. They were big supporters of Storm and I. And but the first thing we did was we had on our trunks, our wrestling trunks, we had AMW put on the back of our trunks. And so amongst the fans, it was already getting around that, it was America's Most Wanted. Well, little by little, we had Mike TNA throw it in every so often on commentary about America's Most Wanted. He would throw that in there. Well, then we got Jeremy, who again was a big supporter. He would start announcing us as America's Most Wanted. And so it was one of those things where it just took baby steps, but eventually, you couldn't turn your head to it. I mean, we were America's Most Wanted, and that was just the way it was going to be. So we just went with it, and thank God there was no copyright problems or anything like that, and we went down in history as America's Most Wanted.
Oh, for sure, and yeah, thank God there was no copyright problems, because like I said, man, in TNA, you can't look at the beginning of TNA or throughout the years without thinking America's Most Wanted. You guys made your name in history with that company, so thank God for that. Every tag team always has that counterpart that they go against, or if they're a face, the other's a heel, or vice versa. You've seen that with the Hardys, Dudleys, Edge, and Christian. You can't look at TNA without thinking about you guys and the Naturals. Anytime you guys were the face, they were the heels. Every time they were the face, you guys were the heels. How was it working with the Naturals? I was always curious about that. You guys had hell of a matches together against each other. Tell us about your guys' rivalry with that tag team.
The Naturals were one of our favorites. Storm would say the same thing. I mean, one of our favorite teams to work with. I think part of the reason there was such good chemistry, number one, we were all good friends. But number two, we had wrestled each other so many times on the independent circuit that once they put us on TV, I mean, we just enhanced everything and took it up a notch. So, but yeah, Andy Douglas, Chase Stevens, we were all really good friends. We hung out, things like that. So when you put us out on TV, I mean, when you're out there with your friends and you're all trying to make a name for yourself, I mean, we just went out and beat the hell out of each other because we knew we could get away with it because we're all good friends. So, yeah, great chemistry, man. I loved working with those guys. And obviously TNA saw it because they put us in the very first cage match. No, not the first cage match, but it was a cage match on one of the events that they put us in with the Naturals. So they obviously had faith in us to go out and get it done.
Oh, for sure. And like I said, I mean, no takeaways from all the other tag teams in TNA. But when you look at the two that helped elevate it, it's the Naturals and AMW. So I want to say thank you for giving us that almost incredible feeling watching you guys fight against each other. There was a story that's always stuck in my head that I wanted to ask you about. You guys kind of, AMW and Triple X did this thing where you won the tag titles with Elix Skipper, and then you had James win the titles with Christopher Daniels. How did that story come about? How did you guys feel about winning the titles with somebody else and not being it with AMW?
I'm not exactly sure where it came from. I almost want to throw Chris Daniels under the bus for that one. I think it was his idea. But first, I have to say how much we loved working with those guys. I mean, Daniels is a ring general, and Elix was such an innovator. We loved working with him. We had so many good matches with him. I think we even did like a best of 5 series with him before that first cage match. So we had great matches with him. When that idea came about, I wasn't crazy about it. I mean, it was something different, especially Elix and I winning the titles together. It was something different. So I'm not sure how the fans took it, but They dropped them to Daniels and Storm, and it kind of snowballed from there into more matches. So I'm not sure where the psychology was there, but it was what was given to us, and so we ran with it and did the best we could with it. But yeah, it was one of those things. I remember the match we actually had with me and Elix versus Daniels and Storm. Storm and I were kind of against the whole idea, so we didn't really touch during that match. It was more of Elix and Daniels going at it, so we didn't really go at it because we knew we were better off as a team. So there was no payoff as far as us going at it. So, but we ran with it. It was a good angle there for a short period of time, but AMW came out of it together, and we went on. We actually won more tag titles after that.
Oh, for sure. And it's one of those stories that I remember watching that, and it's something that has never ever left my brain. Watching you and Skipper, and then Daniels and Storm, I remember watching that very clearly, and I thought it was interesting because you don't see that ever, really. Partners of two different teams winning the titles, and then partners of the other team, winning the titles. You don't really see that. So, I mean, I thought it was unique. I thought it was a cool story because then it culminated in AMW versus Triple X, I believe, in the Six Sides of Steel. It ended that way, right? So, I mean, we've seen it was that match that Elix did the catwalk on the cage, hit the Hurricane Rana. That was the first time we ever seen anything like that. So, I mean, the rivalry you guys had with them too was absolutely fantastic. Now, we've seen how you guys split up. You guys were in Planet Jarrett for a little bit, teamed up with Jarrett. Team Canada was a part of it too, Gail Kim. So we've seen a little bit of AMW as heels. What do you prefer when it comes to wrestling? Do you prefer being the face or do you prefer being the heel?
Oh, that's a tough question for me, man, because I think it's more fun being a heel. But depending on storylines, if you're a good babyface and the people really get into it, then you're better off doing something like that. But we had a great time, and I think we were great heels for the period of time we were. But I think for the most part, people preferred us to be the faces, so we went with that. But yeah, I mean, we had. From day one, we were the big babyface tag team. So, I mean, we were kind of the number one in TNA. So going heel was just something to further our storyline through TNA. I mean, it just made sense. And the people hated us for us because, we were one of those guys, not nowadays where everybody wants to be a cool heel. We were out there and we were doing our thing to get everybody to hate us, and it really worked because anytime you're a great babyface and you turn, if you do it the right way, the people really get pissed off and they hate you for it. So yeah, we had a great run as heels. Adding Gale with us was such a benefit. It just really added to the team. And then being grouped with Jarrett, everybody hated Jarrett to begin with. So it was a great formation there. So it all worked out really good there.
Oh, for sure. And Gale fit in perfectly with America's Most Wanted. It was incredible. Let's talk about the shot heard all around the world. It was AMW versus LAX. Storm took the beer bottle and cracked you over the head with it. Turned his back on Chris Harris, AMW no more. Tell us about what the talks were backstage about that, how you guys felt about that situation, and was it something long-term planned or short-term planned?
Kind of like I was just saying about the whole heel turn. I mean, it was just, progression. We were just going to see, we had been a team for, I think, 6 years at that point. Which was unheard of in those days. I mean, tag teams were split up in a year or less. So, yeah, it was talked about. We went with it. We wanted to kind of see where we would go on our singles careers, and it it was a great turn. I mean, the whole beer bottle thing. Yeah, him putting it in my eye, and I was out for several months with that, and we went through the whole eye patch thing, and but yeah, I mean, it was a really good storyline, and people hated Storm for it, and
Yep.
we were out to prove that we could hang in singles just as much as we could in tags.
Oh, for sure. And it elevated you into the world title picture. We've seen you in King of the Mountain match. We've seen you wrestle guys like Christian Cage, Booker T. We've seen you elevate yourself into that main event spot pretty much soon after the feud with Storm ended. Tell us what it was like to be in the hunt for the world title, to wrestle guys like Christian, who obviously everybody at that point who was wrestling fans knew of. So tell us what it was like to be in that main event picture instead of tag team.
Yeah, man, that felt great, and it made me feel good. Just the company had faith in me to put me in that spot. Storm and I went out, and we kind of did the circuit, having matches against each other across the country, and we were doing really well. We even did some mixed tag matches with Gail, and Storm was paired up with Jackie Moore. So we did some mixed tag matches, and all that kind of came together for that Texas Death Match, man. We went out and we just showed everybody what we could do, and beat the hell out of each other. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. When you're good friends, you can get away with that. So Storm and I went out and just killed each other, and we got a lot of attention with something like that. And yeah, they were doing the King of the Mountain match, and Jeff pulled out. He was going through some personal issues with his wife at that time. His wife had just passed away, so
Yeah.
they put me in that spot, and it like, again, it made me feel good that they had faith in me, because I was being in there with guys like Christian, AJ, Samoa Joe, and Kurt Angle, and you couldn't ask for a better group than that. So for them to have faith and put me into something like that, it was great. And from there, it snowballed into a program with Christian. So I loved it, and I loved where we were going with it.
I mean, those matches were fantastic. I loved watching you in that main event spotlight. You were one of the first people that I ever seen hit the swinging side slam, the catatonic. I thought it was a cool friggin' finisher. It looked great from you doing it. Absolutely loved it. I think it's one of the most underrated finishers of all time. And you hit it so friggin' smoothly, man. It's awesome. So time of TNA is coming to an end here. What happened in the back? Were they did you not want to resign with them, or was it just one of those things you wanted to see was going to be out there more, or did WWE contact you that you were just like, I'm going to be done with TNA now?
No, man. The truth is, I never wanted to leave. I was a TNA guy, so like I said, I was looking forward to where we were going with Christian, and then I went into a program with Dustin. They were doing the whole Black Rain thing, giving him some new identity there, and we were seeing where that was going. But it just seemed like after that, that's when they started signing a lot of guys, and I'm not talking about guys. They were there to really help the company, but they started signing names to come in, and they were just more focused on that. And a lot of guys like myself were getting lost in the shuffle. And yeah, you keep connections in the business. So I had connections with WWE. I wasn't looking to go there, but looking at what they were doing with me at the time, there wasn't a whole lot going on, and I even pulled them aside and tried to see what was happening. Well, my contract was coming up, and I had feelers going on, and of course WWE was talking a big game. They were talking how that everything was going to be great over there, and so I looked at where I was with TNA, and they really had no plans, and then, like I said, my contract was coming up. Well, when we were talking about re-signing, they were giving me a pay cut to do stuff like that. There was just a whole lot of things going into it to where I was not happy with the direction that was going on, and it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. They had no plans. I felt like I was getting lost in the shuffle, and of course they're making it sound like such a great thing at WWE. So I looked into that, um, and that's where it went. So I wound up signing, just thinking that let's give this a chance and see what happens. Because TNA I just felt like they didn't have faith in where we were going. If they were offering a pay cut and there was no direction or anything like that. So I decided to give WWE a chance, and looking back on it, of course, that was a bad idea,
Yeah.
but at the time, man, I mean, you're just trying to further your career and seeing where you can go, and so I felt like I had to give it a chance, and so that's how that all went, man. I gave it a chance and just see where we would go that way.
Oh, for sure, man. And it was rough watching. Being a WWE fan and seeing how you were, getting used and stuff. It was really rough. People still talk about the infamous Braden Walker to this day. It's become a thing all over social media for years. But unfortunately, we didn't get to see Chris Harris as his full potential in WWE because we all seen what you were capable of in TNA compared to how they were using you. Do you think it would have been a better situation if they put you in a place like OVW first to start? Or, because I know they shot you straight to the main roster on ECW right after you got signed, right?
No, they sent me down to Florida for a majority of the year.
Oh, really? Okay.
Before NXT, it was Florida Championship Wrestling, where that was their training center, and they were sending me down there every week. So yeah, I mean, I was at a point in my career where I had to kind of count my bumps because I didn't know how many I had left. So they were sending me down there, and every day I was doing drills and things like that. Just it made no sense. I mean, I was killing my body for nothing. So the bottom line is they talked a big game to get me in. And once I was in, they had no plans. There was nothing done. I don't even think they knew where I came from. It was a matter of signing, and there was no plans. I had meetings with the creative team. They had no direction, no nothing. And so it just wound up being where they threw me out on TV, and I couldn't even be myself. I mean, they even took away a lot of my wrestling moves. I mean, I couldn't do this or that because it was too similar to some of their top stars. So the whole thing was a disaster. I mean, they just had no direction what to do, and which is sad because it's $1 billion company, and they signed somebody that obviously has proven themselves as far as wrestling. I mean, I was decent on promos. I had TV experience, but they had no agenda, no nothing. So it was very poor planned. They had no creative ideas in mind, and not only did I almost want to say if they just threw me out there and let me be myself, I would have shown what I could do, but they wouldn't even let me do that. I mean, they were taking everything away from me. So it just the whole thing sucked, man. It was awful.
Oh, for sure, man. And like I said, watching it was very upsetting because knowing what Chris Harris is capable of in that ring, and it's something special to see. I don't normally say that to every single person. So, I mean, it shows that you were special.
I really appreciate you saying that. And I guess after the whole thing was over, I really hope that people would remember what I was capable of and what I could do in TNA, and know that just because I switched companies, that doesn't take away the wrestling ability or anything like that. So it was yeah, I was bummed, but I was hoping that people would know, would keep in mind my history and what I could really do.
Oh, for sure. And people like me that watched it, I mean, I was personally excited to see you on WWE television. It was cool, but then when you got into the ring and you had those matches, it kind of, like you said, took away who you were. So it was very upsetting to see because, like I said, watching you for years, knowing what you're capable of. It was just something completely different. You got to return to TNA not too long after WWE to be Matt Hardy's mystery partner against Bear Money. How did that come about? Did you get a phone call from the company and say, "Hey, we would like you to return," or how did that come about?
Well, since I was spending a lot of time in Florida, and TNA obviously was doing their tapings in Orlando. I was in Tampa. So I still had friends there. So I still hung out with a lot of the guys. So I still had my connections there. Kept in touch with a lot of guys. And Russo was still writing the TV, and he was one of the very few at that point, because this is after Hogan and Bischoff and all those guys had come in and completely restructured everything. But Russo knew the history, so I think he was coming up with a good idea to write it in. Beer Money was great tag team. They were on top. And people had talked about a match between Beer Money and the Hardys. And something was going on with Jeff at the time. He couldn't come in. So it was a really good idea, good storyline, where Matt brought me in, and they brought up the history with me and Storm. So yeah, I was really excited about that. I thought there was a lot of different directions we could go with it. I sat down with Vince, and we kind of mapped out some different directions we could go. I thought we had a really good match at the pay-per-view. The problem was the guys that were running the show, they didn't know the history, and they weren't willing to put a package together or tell a story or anything like that. It was just kind of thrown out there, and there was no direction given. So it was short-lived. We did a few house shows, but yeah, we ended with the pay-per-view, and that was it. It was over after that.
For sure. I mean, it was pretty much one and done. It was very sad because I was personally really excited to see you coming back and doing your thing again, because coming off that WWE run, like I said, it was hard to watch. So seeing you come back and being able to possibly be Chris Harris again was awesome. When the music hit, my jaw dropped, and I was really excited. I was like, "This is gonna be awesome." So I loved every second of that. Even though it was short lived, it was still fantastic. After that, what happened? Where'd you go? Independence? You just kind of here and there, or where did you go after TNA the second time?
After that, yeah, I took some time off, just trying to evaluate what was going on. I always had ideas with TNA. I always wanted to get back there in some way. Never wanted to go back to WWE. I didn't care how much money was even offered. I never wanted to go back there. It was an awful experience. Not only professional, but it even affected my personal life. I mean, I just went through a downward spiral after that. So yeah, I eventually I got back into independence. Did that a little bit, but it kind of got in the direction where the injuries started catching up with me, and some health issues started coming up. So little by little, I just found myself doing less wrestling and doing more of the just doing appearances. So I would do a lot of autograph signings and things like that. Some conventions. I started getting into conventions, which I'm still doing now. We took a little hiatus during the pandemic, but I really love doing the conventions. Not only I don't have to take bumps. I can just sit there and take pictures and sign autographs, but I also get to see a lot of friends, a lot of old friends doing those kind of things. So, and then I kind of got back into the local promotion that I started with, to help and train some guys there, and doing what I could there. So that's kind of where I am now. I just kind of led myself out. I mean, the whole career thing, it ended a lot sooner than I wanted it to. I felt like there was a lot more I could have done, and had a lot more to offer. but that was the direction it took. And but looking back, man, I loved everything I did. I had a great career. I had a good run, and I had a lot more than most guys have. I spent a good amount of time, making a living as a professional wrestler. I was under contract at WCW, TNA, WWE. I mean, you can't ask for much more than that, man.
Oh, for sure. And, storied career, like I said, you and Storm have the most reigns as NWA Tag Team Champions. Absolutely incredible. And I don't think you could look at TNA without knowing who Chris Harris is, because, like I said, you were a focal point in the tag team division for a very long time. So you can't look at TNA early years without saying AMW. I mean, that'll always be an honor in itself, most likely to you, to have that sentiment and be like, yeah, I was a big part of this company and it's still going today. I mean, that must be a cool feeling.
Yeah, man, I'm so proud of that. When they talk about tag teams, beer money gets thrown out there a lot, especially with Storm involved. And a lot of people look at me and they're like, well, you must have something against beer money because it was Storm. But no, I was a huge fan of beer money. I thought it was awesome. I love Bobby Roode. I mean, him and I were really tight all those years. So a lot of people during the Hogan Bischoff years look at beer money, and that's one of the top teams out there. But yeah, what you said, during the early years, up until 2008, I mean, the biggest tag team out there had to be America's Most Wanted, and I'm so proud of that. We worked hard to make that run work, and I if people look back on TNA, depending on the years they look at, but if you look at the early years, the best tag team out there was America's Most Wanted.
Oh, for sure. And you guys won Tag Team of the Year a couple times, which is awesome. Now, final couple questions here. We've seen you return to TNA earlier this year to be a part of James Storm's 1,000th TNA match, Impact match. Tell us what the atmosphere was like backstage compared to how it was your first two runs, and just being a part of something special like that.
Yeah, that was so cool. Storm and I obviously keep in touch over the years. So I knew what was going on, and Scott DeBoer is the one running the whole show now, and I was always tight with Scott. I've kept in touch with Scott over the years. So when that all came about, even Storm was surprised. Somebody had kept track of his TNA matches. And so the 1,000 was coming up, and Scott gave me a call and said, "Hey, we're thinking about doing something. You want to be part of it? We could work something out." And I said, "Hell yeah!" I said, "I can't wrestle, but I'd love to be a part of it." And so yeah, man, we worked something out where he had his match against Eric Young, which was really cool. Eric's awesome. I love that guy, and I was in his corner. But a lot of people remember the backstage face to face we did. Which is kind of funny. Everybody remembers that part where I first came out. So yeah, that was really cool, man. And being backstage, I love seeing all the new guys, some young, fresh faces that are going to carry the company. But I got to see a lot of familiar faces as well, and that was really cool. I got to see Gail again, and guys like Petey Williams, Chris Sabin. It was just really cool to see all these guys again, and I still, my heart's with the company. They're still around. When people said it wouldn't be around after 6 months, they're still around. I just hope some great things for them, and hopefully they can get back in the mainstream and keep it going. And I'm just a big, I'm pro all these companies because the more opportunities there is for guys to make a living as a professional wrestler, I mean, I love that. And so I hope that Impact stays around forever, man. And a lot of these guys can make a name there.
Oh, for sure. And it's crazy because I think a lot of fans who grew up watching TNA Impact started feeling like it was losing its touch until last year's Slammiversary. Not this past year, but last year's, when they made those announcements of people coming back or debuting. It just completely changed shit. You know, the whole feel of TNA makes it feel like that top tier company again, or Impact, I should call it, because that's what it is. But I feel like that's what a lot of people look at it now. You know, I've heard more people talk about Impact this year compared to the last 5. And it's because Scott's doing his thing and running it better, and it's more smooth. And it's just, the matches are incredible. It's never changed. It's always been fantastic. I've always been a fan. I love guys like you guys. I love Chris Sabin. Chris Sabin, absolutely fantastic wrestler. You know, a part of another fantastic tag team in the Motor City Machine Guns. But yeah, I mean, you guys grew into that company and made it to what it is today. And to watch years back and seeing what you guys did, it just changed the entire landscape. I think TNA brought a lot of good tag teams in. You had the 3 Live Crew, you had Team Canada, you had the Naturals, you had Triple X, and then you had America's Most Wanted. And it was absolutely awesome to see. And you never got bored. You never got tired. It was always fantastic. So I want to say thank you, Chris, for everything you've done for this wrestling business, for everything you've done to make tag team wrestling fun, exciting. It was an incredible journey that you got to show the fans. And I want to say thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you so much, man. I mean, I really appreciate guys like yourself that can appreciate the tag team division and what it can represent and do out there for some of the events. And that's part of what I train a lot of the guys now. I mean, you know, we're programmed into watching the singles matches, but man, when you got a tag team out there, I mean, you got double the amount of guys that can tell a story. And so if you can really get into something like that, man, yeah. And I worked with some great tag teams throughout the years, and I will cherish all those memories. And I thank TNA for giving me the opportunity, and I thank guys like yourself for watching and being such a great fan.
Oh, for sure, man. I never hated anything you've done, man. It's always been fantastic. So, Chris, do you want to tell the fans where they could find you on social media?
Best way to do it, I still have my Twitter. It's at AMW Wildcat. I have a lot of merchandise that we can get out there on a website, which I can't remember right now, but yeah, if anybody wants to get in touch with me as far as whether it's bookings or just send a message, get to me on Twitter, AMW Wildcat.
Awesome. Chris, I want to thank you for your time, man. I want to thank you for being a part of my show. It was such a huge honor to be able to talk to you for a little bit. Huge fan, always will be, man. You were fantastic. So I appreciate it. Like I said, everything you've done. And thank you.
No, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. And this was great.
I appreciate it, man. Guys, until next time, I'm your host, Matt Kozakowski. This has been Wildcat Chris Harris. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you, guys.